housekeeping stuff, and folks kind of trickle in as they come. But my name is Clarissa Goodland. I'm the program manager here at the Stone Center. So I want to welcome everybody to our first in a series of writer discussion series. This evening we're featuring Dr. Gerald Horne, who is also a former director of the Stone Center. So we're very happy to have him back. We'll see him back at the Stone Center. So like I said, just want to do a few quick housekeeping things. You have a couple of pieces of paper on your chair, one of which is a survey. And so for every event that we do here at the Stone Center, we always do a survey at the end that helps me in particular and helps our staff in general to improve on our programming, to keep doing what's working well, and then get feedback from you all about ways we can improve. So it's very important for you to fill that out for us. It's a pretty quick survey, so you can fill that out, and there's a little basket in the back if you just want to drop that off at the end. There's some pencils back there if you don't have anything to write with. Also, you have a spring calendar, so a front and back page that lists all of our programs that are happening here at the Stone Center this spring. As I mentioned, this is our first in a writers discussion series. We'll have 5 other authors coming to campus this spring. This is our second program for the semester, but we have some great programming this year. All of the programs are free and open to the public, so we hope that you'll come back and visit us throughout the spring. And then last, in particular, I want to mention a program that's going to be happening starting on February 1st. We're hosting a series of writing workshops. We have an artist in residence. His name is Howard Kraft. He's a local poet and playwright, and he'll be doing 4 free workshops on writing radio dramas. So he's actually written an African-American superhero series that aired on WUNC Public Radio in November. So he'll be here all spring semester, but in February he's hosting these series of workshops. So there's flyers in the back about that. So hope that you all will come out to that. If you know folks who are interested, that's also free and open to the public. So hope that you'll share that with folks and come out for that as well. And then most of you probably saw when you came in, Dr. Horne's books are out there for sale via the Wilson Bookshop, so you can check that out on the way out. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Gerald Horne. Dr. Horne is the John J. and Rebecca Morris Chair of History and African American Studies at the University of Houston. His research has addressed issues of racism and a variety of relations involving labor, politics, civil rights, international relations, and war. He's also written extensively about history. Dr. Horne is a former director of the Sonja Haynes Stone Center. Dr. Horne received his Ph.D. in history from Columbia University and his J.D. from the University of California, Berkeley. And tonight's discussion is really just Negro Comrades of the Crown, African Americans in the British Empire fight U.S. before emancipation, and Fighting in Paradise, labor unions, racism, and communism in the modern making of Hawaii. So let's welcome Dr. Horne.
Is it on?
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be back in Chapel Hill, back in North Carolina. I'm only going to speak for a few moments about these 2 books, and then we can have a discussion about it if you like. I'll talk about the first book, Negro Comrades of the Crown, initially. This is a book about slave resistance before emancipation, before 1865, and about Negro resistance more broadly in the context of the early republic, so to speak. It has a thesis and argument, like most history books do nowadays. The thesis basically being that to understand abolition, one has to understand the Haitian Revolution, specifically 1791 to 1804. The argument is that the Haitian Revolution changed the calculus with regard to slavery, particularly in London. You may know that London's abolitionist movement grew earlier and stronger than that of the United States by an order of magnitude. talk about that later if you like. But in any case, after Britain tried to squash the Haitian Revolution, like many European powers did, France not least, and suffered in that context one of the most ignominious defeats in British imperial history, expending blood and treasure in that regard, Britain pivoted and moved towards abolition. By pivoting and moving towards abolition and basically allying with Haiti, it made it possible for Britain to still march against its internal antagonists across the Channel, Paris, and it also allowed Britain to still march against the rising republic and rising rival across the Atlantic in the United States. This pivoting by Britain in terms of trumpeting abolition came clear during the War of 1812, whose bicentennial is going conspicuously unremarked here in the United States, although notoriously commemorated north of the border in Canada. This is no accident because a good deal of this War of 1812 had to do with the United States trying to seize Canada, not only for reasons of territorial aggrandizement, but also because Canada had become an anti-slavery sanctuary. And ultimately, by the 1860s, thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of enslaved Africans from the United States had escaped across the border to Canada. And this is a major capital loss, and some of these slaves might have been worth $1,000 and $2,000, so you could do the math and calculate how much was lost when the enslaved Africans fled. But what happens during the War of 1812, which really is symbolized most pointedly in August 1814, when the British invade Washington and sack Washington, D.C., and basically torch the White House, is that they were assisted every step of the way by enslaved Africans. And many of these enslaved Africans then left with the British and were moved en masse to places like Bermuda and to Halifax and to Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, when I was speaking in New York this last week, a sister raised her hand and mentioned that her descendants had fled from Virginia during the War of 1812 and moved to Trinidad. Now she had moved back to the United States. You should know that this kind of alliance was not new. I mean, for example, in 1655, when the British ousted the Spanish from Jamaica, you had a substantial Jewish population in Jamaica, which had fled the Inquisition, the anti-Semitic Inquisition in Spain, and basically assisted the British every step of the way. And as a result, in Jamaica, you still have the sizable Jewish population of some means and some prominence. If you look at the Irish, for example, with their conflict with London, stretching back centuries, many of the leaders of the Spanish Empire, including the Prime Minister of the mid-19th century, was of Irish descent. The Captain General, or the leader of Cuba in the 1850s, was Leopold O'Donnell. The governor of Louisiana in 1766 was Alejandro Uribe. I was just, for this 1776 project, I was just looking at this Board of Slave Revolt in South Carolina in 1748, where this Irish guy by the name of Lawrence Kelly was helping the enslaved Africans seek to liquidate the English settlement in South Carolina. So, obviously, one of the lessons here is that if you persecute an entire people, don't be surprised if they turn against you and ally with your foes. And I dare say that that's really one of the lessons of Black history in North America. And in fact, let me just give you the title, the title of the 1776 book I'm working on, which I think encapsulates the title is Negro Insurrection plus Foreign Invasion, Slavery in the Origins of the United States. Because what I'm going to argue is that in order to understand the United States today, you have to understand this fear that the Negroes will be plotting. In fact, this may even have a contemporary resonance in terms of all of these rather interesting remarks about why are these